I was going to come up with that Good Morning Vietnam, and you know that film, remember? Robbie Williams. And anyway, good morning, everybody. And what I love that song. Wake up, you're so beautiful. I was listening to that on my headphones. But,
Ah,
and before we came off. Anyway, good morning. We got Wendy Capewell here. And Wendy is actually a relationship counselor. Yes, guys, if you're listening on the radio, don't forget to leave your any comments at all. And guys, if you listen on podcasts, please also leave your comments in the right hand column. Don't get them mixed up, else we won't be able to. Else I won't be able to do my interview. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for all joining me. Let's go over to Wendy. Wendy, good morning.
good morning, Steve.
I
How
tell you,
nice to be on here.
I'm grateful that you came on. Relationship counselor.
Yeah.
Gosh,
Well, I I I work with all kinds of people, but I think relationships is one of my kind of areas that I focus on quite a lot. And let's face it, it starts with a relationship with ourselves, and it
yeah.
then the relationship with others, because we're social human beings. And therefore, the relationship with ourselves is paramount as to how we are with ourselves, how we function in the world, our well-being, and so on. And then, of course, the relationship we have with others, whether it's a sibling, our parents, our children, and most importantly, our significant other. So
Mm.
they're all really important relationships.
What made you? You've probably been asked this loads of times, but what made you become a relationship counselor?
I guess mainly because I started that journey with a relationship with myself. I knew I wasn't happy. I knew there were things that had happened in my life that I felt just weren't right. And I need to explore that. And I did that by starting training as a counsellor. And it was an amazing journey. It was hard work, 4 years, but I got more insight into me and why I behaved in a certain way. But along the way, I'd also got into some. Sadly, my first marriage ended, that relationship with the 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 man of my he's the parent of my children, father of my children, and that ended, and I was so sad that that ended. We just didn't know how to fix it. Neither of us were good at communicating, and therefore, when it went wrong, neither of us knew how. We didn't have the tools to do it. And then after that, I kind of bumbled away a lot. I was in meeting different people, but nothing really kind of really worked for me. I didn't find that person. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me now because in 1991, I got breast cancer and I had a mastectomy, which meant I lost a breast. That was horrendous for me because for me, that was part of my femininity. And I didn't believe any other man would want me after that. I did meet somebody. He was completely unsuitable. But the one thing that drew me to him was his wife had had breast cancer. So he wouldn't reject me. She had died, sadly, of it. But this relationship was toxic. And I started training as a therapist at that point. And it was that point I went, I can't get out of this relationship and I don't know how to. But some of that training gave me the tools to actually find my way out of it. Because we know that so many people, I think it's in domestic abuse, the statistics are that it will take a woman 7 times before she will actually leave a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not that easy. You could say, well, why did you do it? You're an intelligent woman. Why didn't you just walk away? It wasn't that easy. I'm not going to go into all of the details of it, but it wasn't. But I got the tools there, and it empowered me, and wow. So then I wanted to learn more. And I thought, you know what? People have said to me, friends have said, how can you be a relationship counsellor? You're not happily married. You screwed up. Yeah, exactly the reason. I have more insight as to what goes wrong. Whereas if you were happily married for 25 years, would you have the same insights? Maybe you would, because you'd have fixed it, but you may not. So that's why I got into it, really.
Yeah. And I think the trouble is we go through all the experiences in life. We can say that we've been there, can we? We can actually say that we've been there. I've been married a few times, and my first wife died in a car crash. She was pregnant, and then we were coming back from holiday, and I was on the motorway, and a lorry went right into us, took us off the motorway. Car turned over, saved the baby, but couldn't save her. And but the trouble is, we all go through experiences in life, and when we kind of we don't get over it, but sometimes we kind of we can learn from them, and and because we've been in that situation, we can help other people, and that's it, and that's a good thing, and that's why when I was reading about you, I thought, and I thought, well, this is a story that needs to be told because, suffering from, you've had breast cancer, and that's terrific to have breast cancer. That is, really, that's not, it's kind of like, and you're thinking, and I bet you're thinking, well, if I have a relationship with somebody love me, with somebody accept me for what I am, and the trouble is, have you ever watched that film called The Greatest Showman?
Yeah.
Well, that's all about acceptance, isn't it, really, if you think about it? And we need to be kind of every one of us needs to be accepted in life, but we live in a world of hate, and unfortunately. And but the trouble is, you can kind of. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, so going through all those experiences in life, that's kind of got to the point now for you to help other people. What's it been like as a counsellor to help other people? Do you get achievement out of it?
Do you know, I would say it's quite selfish because I get so much from helping other people. It's such an amazing feeling when you can see somebody just seeing a different perspective, being there to listen to them, helping them move forward. It's incredible, Steve. And I always say, I've been doing this for more than 16 years now, and I say I've got the best job in the world. It's the best career I've ever had, certainly. But it's being. So I feel so humble when somebody will share something they've not shared with another living soul, that they would trust me enough to share what they consider is their deepest, darkest secret. And that's empowering for them, because I'm not going to judge them. I've heard some really sad, tragic stories, some horrendous stories. After I first qualified, I was a volunteer counsellor at a rape and sexual abuse centre, and for about 5 years. My clients some of them had been sexually abused as children, and they had nowhere to go. They couldn't tell anyone, and that means that they are feeling the guilt and shame of that. where the guilt and shame is actually with their abuser. It's horrendous to hear, but if that helps one person release some of that shame and that guilt, wow. I'm quite emotional now thinking about it, because it just is incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And let's go back the years. Let's just go back to your childhood, because at around about, was it 5 that you attracted polio?
Yeah, I was 4 years old and I got polio. Yes, contracted it. I was paralyzed completely down my right side. And luckily, my dad had some medical background, if you like. He had some insight, and he contacted a doctor, and I was taken into hospital. I was in an isolation ward for several months because you can't be in contact with anybody else. And the only treatment really is good nutrition and bed rest and so on.
Yeah.
It was at that time. Unfortunately, I completely recovered. However, that time being away at such a young age, when you don't know, you can't speak, you can't move your limbs, it must have been terrifying for me. My parents couldn't even come into the ward. They could only visit, and I remember seeing them like through a porthole window. Why did they leave me in this hospital? Why was I abandoned? Must have been distressing for them, but I just want to go home. I don't want to. Why am I being shut in a room on my own? For the only people I saw were doctors, nurses, and I remember at some point, I guess when I was recovering, a cleaner. That was it. No other children, no other people.
Yeah. And then years went on. Then all of a sudden, something else happened. Your dad had a nervous breakdown when you were 15.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah,
I bet that was
that
frightening.
it was very frightening. And very distressing, because he just, I'm going to share a bit more with you of that, if I may, with the listeners. It's a story.
Carry on.
It's a story I haven't told, because I carried shame around with me about that for a long time. So what happened was that we just had the police knock on our door one night. My dad wasn't there, and he'd been arrested because he'd been stealing. He was put on probation. He wasn't imprisoned. I don't know the whole story, because a lot of it was shielded from me. But he was taken into a mental hospital. He had electric shock treatment on his head. Anyway, he came out of hospital, but he'd been a broken man before, but he was now really a broken man. I didn't know at the time. It wasn't for many years later. I was talking to another therapist, and I said, first of all, I said, well, this is what happened to my dad. It felt so shameful, because obviously it was in the local papers. Nobody spoke to me at school, but I always knew that the other kids knew. And it was that horrible feeling that, my dad was an upright citizen. Why did this happen? It was never, ever spoken about. Again, so sad. But moving forward to this therapist I talked to some years later, and he said, your dad was doing what he did in the war. He was scavenging. He went back to that place in the war where they used to root around houses as soldiers for food.
Oh.
And when he said that, it just kind of, I don't know the answer, but it made more sense.
God.
How the brain works.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's you're right. But also at that particular time when you were younger, and when your dad had this breakdown and everything,
Mm.
what was it like? Like kind of like being at home and being in that environment.
It I think at that time, I mean, mental health really, really, there was a really bad taboo on it, awful taboo. And that's why I want to break that taboo, that stigma around it. And fortunately, more recently, it is being broken. But at that time, it was a secret. I felt ashamed. I didn't know what was happening. I was scared. We could go and visit him, but it was so, my mother didn't talk about it. It was so taboo subject. We never, ever spoke about it as a family, ever.
Yeah, yeah,
And that was horrible because my dad must have felt horrendous. My mum must have felt horrendous. I certainly did, everybody. But there was nobody, I just felt I was kept in the dark about it all.
yeah.
Scary.
Stigma these days or about anything. I remember when I had when I committed suicide. I tried committing suicide off
Right.
Tamar Bridge in Cornwall. And I don't know if you know my story, but I'm not going to go into it at the moment.
Okay.
But the trouble is, I tried committing suicide off a bridge, and that's where I kind of met my faith really in God. But the trouble
Right.
is, see, the trouble is, we all come to a boarding point in our lives, and we all go through things. And the trouble is, sometimes, when things terrible happen in our lives, we don't know how to handle it.
No.
And because you're a counselor now, all right, it's kind of like you've got the tools, you've got the toolbox, say, to
Yeah.
open it and say, right, yes, this is what I've been taught, this is what I can do, and you can repair yourself. You know what I mean? It's like a car in it that's in the garage. That you can start repairing yourself. When when did you get to a certain point in your life thinking, right, I've got to start helping myself. I've got to start getting back on the pathway again and getting my life completely sorted.
I think there's a few things I'd like to pick up on there, if I may, Steve.
Yeah, sure, carry on.
Could I just start by saying I hate that phrase committed suicide, because that feels like it's a sin. It's something you commit a crime. I think I don't like that phrase, because somebody doesn't want to. They haven't done something criminal. What they've done is they've got to a point where they don't know how to move forward.
Well,
The
sorry about
fact that
that. I
no,
said
no, no, it's
yeah,
not that, but it's not. I'm not trying to correct you, sorry, but I just want to, even the listeners, let's change these words. Let's change the way we look at somebody who feels there is no other hope, that they are so worthless, that there is no other way out, that they feel that they will be better off and everybody else will be better off if they weren't around.
yeah, yeah.
So I please forgive me. I wasn't trying to pick up on you, but
No,
it
no,
just
no.
is.
That's
I
okay.
just think, wow.
Because I've had a stroke too, and sometimes I find it difficult to get things out of. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I think it was more for the listeners, because I think let's change the way we view this, because somebody has, anyone I've ever worked with who said they've wanted to end their life or come to that point, they haven't wanted to end their life. They just want to be released from the pain that they're in.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that is something, if, I've sat with quite a number of people who've been in that place. And that's they've all told me that. It's not they want to die, they just can't cope with the living. So with living their lives the way they are, and they don't know where else to go for help. And I think, that's so, yeah, just that point, if I may.
That's fine. I totally
Okay.
understand.
Yeah.
The
So
trouble is,
yeah, the next. Sorry,
sorry, carry on. Go on.
I was going to say, moving on. Where did I decide I was going to turn my life around? So I think I grew up feeling not good enough. That was it. Again, there was other stuff in my childhood. My mother was very controlling. I didn't feel I ever lived up to what she wanted me to be because of my dad's mental health. I always felt I was trying to get his approval. I just didn't feel I lived up to things. So I became a people pleaser, trying to get people to like me, trying to get people's approval, whether it be one of my friends at school, whether it was a teacher, and it went on into employment, it went on to my marriage. I'm trying to be the best wife, the best mom. I was trying to get people's approval. So I was a people pleaser because I just didn't feel I was good enough. So, but you know what? When we try to do that, we don't know what other people want us to be. And it's a pretty futile kind of existence, really, because I don't know what somebody else wants of me. So if I'm trying to be what I think they want me to be, it's a bit mindless, really.
Yeah,
And then I got, so during my training, that was it. And it was, okay, now I know what my problems are. I can wear it like a tattoo across my forehead. That's where it all comes from. But I can't carry on living my life like that. So it was actually, because I was trying to be something else, I had to find myself because I'd lost the real me in all of this. And it really was, okay, who am I? What is it about me? What makes me the person I am? And I think those 4 years helped me explore that. And I'm still doing it. I see my life like a big jigsaw puzzle. There are bits in it, you put the sky in and you put what you think are the corners and the edges. And you might learn those, but there are bits in there that I might find another piece of the jigsaw puzzle and go, oh, okay. And then I might find a bit that doesn't actually fit, or it might be needed to be somewhere else. But learning to be just me, that was scary because I can't, what if people don't like me? What if I'm the real me instead of trying to be what I think I want people to be? What if they won't like me? But you know
yeah,
what, Steve? I found that by being me, the toxic people in my life that I was attracting have disappeared. And now I have so many lovely people around me who really like me for who I am and I like them.
great. Well done. Okay. The trouble is, there's a lot of stigma out there at the moment about mental health, about obesity. I'm an ambassador for both of them, and it, when someone comes to you and they kind of like had enough, really kind of like come to, well, I don't know, a relationship that's ended, say, and they're there going, oh, I just feel so low and everything. What's the procedure? What do you do?
Okay, I don't have a set procedure for anybody because for me, people say, "Oh, how do you do it? What do you do?" And I think, well, I don't want to put someone through a sausage machine. We're not sausages. We're all individuals. And so when someone comes to me to start with, some people will start pouring everything out because it's been held inside for so long. And they just want to get out all their upset, all their distress, all their scare, their worries, everything. They want to pour it out. And then there's that, and then there's that, and then that happens and so on. And so for me, it's to listen without judgment, completely just hear them, because that's their story that they need to, it's been locked inside of them. Well, some people don't. They need a little gentle kind of talking to them, asking them, what's it like for you? How are you? How are you doing? What's the biggest thing that's causing you a problem? What caused you to come and see me, and why now? So everybody's different, and it is just going with the client. Some people want just to be listened to. Some people want exercises. Some people want, they want to try different things, in it as way. Some people, we know that we all, not everybody knows, but we receive information differently. So through our eyes, auditory, our ears, and kinesthetically through our bodies. So everybody has a different way of receiving information and working, in their world. Some people want to write things down. Some people want to talk about things. Some people, they're just different ways of doing it. And it is whatever works for the client.
Great.
Does that help?
Yeah, that did help. But thank you very much for joining me. I'd love for you to come back again and talk to you some more, because there's lots more to talk about.
Yeah.
And
I'd love to.
But thank you so much this morning for coming on and talking to me.
Very welcome. Thank you so much, Steve. And I think you're doing amazing work.
Thank you so much.
Just incredible. So keep going.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye now.